Welcome into another edition of In the Bonus. My name is Jorie Mickens, host of the Full Court Report NBA show. And on this edition of In the Bonus, I had the opportunity to watch the Brooklyn Nets face the Utah Jazz. And in that game, we saw the Brooklyn Nets manhandle this team, the Utah Jazz, 130-96. The Brooklyn Nets, a great performance all around from this team. And to be completely honest, I don't have that many notes really. I wouldn't put too much stock into this game. But there's a lot of things I could say that I've jotted down, especially through the first three quarters, since it was a blowout. Not too much happened in the fourth quarter. But anyway, just to begin, I guess, and watching this broadcast, I saw some interesting stats for the Brooklyn Nets. They rank last in opponents' offensive rebounds, giving up 14.6 offensive rebounds per game. Last in second chance points allowed, 20.3 for the Nets, and 27th in the league in opponents' points in the paint at 51.4 points per game. So they've really struggled, I guess, really rebounding. And I think you can credit that to the lack of, size maybe in their front court. They obviously have Jarrett Allen and DeAndre Jordan, but their lineup hasn't really consisted of a true power forward. And that's something we talked about on the show, this past show, the Full Court Report NBA show. And Chris, a.k.a. Toby, he mentioned that the Brooklyn Nets, they don't necessarily have a true power forward on this roster. They've been playing Taurean Prince. They played Jeff Green, Kevin Durant, obviously, but at the moment he was out. He missed this game. Kevin Durant did not play in this game. And it was still a dominant performance from the Brooklyn Nets. But in this game, it was a different showing. They out-rebounded the Utah Jazz 51-42. Although the Jazz still had more offensive rebounds than the Nets, it was a very dominant showing all around for Brooklyn. But to start the game, Kyrie Irving was just on fire. In the first quarter, he had 18 points on 7 of 7 shooting and 4 of 4 from the three-point line. He was absolutely blazing to start the game. He finished the game with 29 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists, as well as 3 steals. So Kyrie Irving had a phenomenal game, as did Jarrett Allen. Jarrett Allen outperformed Rudy Gobert in this one. Jarrett Allen finished the game with 19 points and 18 rebounds. 18 rebounds is the third highest mark of Jarrett Allen's young career, and this was his first start for the Brooklyn Nets this season. And again, another thing that we mentioned on the show, or at least Chris mentioned, is that Jarrett Allen, and Justin really, Jarrett Allen needs to get more minutes. And DeAndre Jordan, he played just 9 minutes in this game. He actually had 4 personal fouls in 4 minutes, I believe, at one point in this game. He finished with 5 fouls. But, yeah, DeAndre Jordan, he only played 9 minutes in this game. And Jarrett Allen just put on a show. He outperformed Rudy Gobert, who is a defensive player of the year. And he just out-hustled him on rebounds. He looked really good in transition and even showcased somewhat of an offensive game against one of the best defensive centers in the league. So I think moving forward, they certainly need to get him more minutes, keep him in the rotation as much as possible, because he's really showcasing a great game, both offensively and defensively for the Nets, and I think he'll be a very solid piece. I know you probably, if you're the Nets, you want to stick with the veteran, but if Jarrett Allen is playing better, why not go to him? But anyway, just really throughout the game, from start to finish, the Brooklyn Nets just never took their foot off the gas. It was just a completely dominant performance from the Brooklyn Nets. There's really not much to say about this game other than how well Brooklyn looked. And I mean, they shot 56% from the field, opposed to Utah's just 39%. 39% from 3 for the Nets, opposed to Utah's 32%. 12 turnovers for the Nets, opposed to Utah's 16. 31 assists for Brooklyn, opposed to Utah's 17. So just all around, it was a very, very good game for the Brooklyn Nets. Karis LeVert also had a very solid game off the bench for the Brooklyn Nets. 24 points for him, 5 assists as well. He shot 9 for 18 from the field, 4-4 from the free throw line, 2 steals in this game. And the third quarter is really where he got going, as Kyrie Irving somewhat looked a little bit more fatigued and needed some rest. You could tell Karis LeVert was ready to take over, and he just did exactly that. He took over. He was making shots from everywhere on the floor. He was making threes. He was throwing lobs, getting steals. Karis LeVert really showcased that he can be a number one scoring option when the Brooklyn Nets need him to be. And with Kevin Durant being out, I think they're definitely going to need that moving forward on their schedule. I believe they have a very big game against the Philadelphia 76ers coming up on Thursday. That'll be a very good game, one that certainly everyone should tune into because Philly has been phenomenal to start the season, 6-1 so far. So it's going to be an interesting game for sure, those two. But again, just Brooklyn looked incredible. But again, I wouldn't put too much stock into this game. Utah, I guess they just looked a little tired maybe. They have really quality wins throughout the season, that is the Jazz. They've beaten the Blazers, the Clippers, the Spurs on the road. So I wouldn't worry too much about this team. Again, Donovan Mitchell, he had 31 points in this game. So he looked really solid, but no one else for the Jazz scored over 12 points. So again, it's always been that case, I feel like, with the Jazz, is that it's Donovan Mitchell's team, and then he's obviously going to get his, but who else is going to step up? And in this game, really no one else could step up, and that led to the downfall for the Jazz in this one. But I wouldn't overreact if I'm a Jazz fan, or if you're a Brooklyn fan. I wouldn't expect Brooklyn to put up 130 points against a team every night, and I also wouldn't expect Utah to look as bad as they did in this one. So, yeah, I mean, other than that, this was an interesting game. It was a lot of fun to see Kyrie perform the way he did, and especially in that first half, he was absolutely on fire. So it was a very good showing for the Brooklyn Nets, and yeah, I think really the biggest takeaway for this game is I think the Brooklyn Nets starting lineup is whatever they did in this one is what they should try and stick with. Obviously, when Kevin Durant comes back, they need to integrate him back into the lineup, but Brooklyn started Bruce Brown and Taurean Prince in this game, as well as Jarrett Allen. Obviously, I mentioned he getting his first start, and then Jeff Green. So it was definitely a mix-up for their starting lineup. Joe Harris is normally a starter for this team, and I believe they mentioned that this was the first game he had come off the bench in something over like 150 games or something crazy like that. So obviously uncharacteristic for Joe Harris to come off the bench, but I think it worked because defensively, especially in that first quarter, this team looked so locked in. Bruce Brown, even though he's not an offensive juggernaut, I would say he only had 6 points in this game. He played stout defense on Donovan Mitchell throughout the first quarter especially. Taurean Prince looked really active defensively. Jeff Green, obviously a veteran, but I would imagine he's the one that would probably get replaced when Kevin Durant comes back in the starting lineup. And then Jarrett Allen, just a very solid center, and he's not going to put up 19 points and 18 rebounds every game, but if you can get him engaged and working on both the offensive defensive side of the floor, you're going to have a very solid team with Kyrie, Jarrett Allen, Bruce Brown, Taurean Prince, and Kevin Durant in their starting lineup. So, yeah, I mean, that's really all the takeaways I have from this game. Again, I wouldn't overreact too much from what happened in this one, but a very good showing from the Brooklyn Nets. But that's really all that I have for this game. Again, this is another edition of In the Bonus with myself, Jorie Mickens. Be sure to tune into the Full Court Report NBA show that we just posted on Tuesday, and be on the lookout for more episodes in the future. Thank you so much for listening. Follow us on our social medias, and stay safe, everyone.